Ecclesiastes 8:14 says, "Sometimes something useless happen on earth. Bad things happen to good people, and good things happen to bad people." Well, today we will be reflecting on moving on from life's adversities. Ang nagakatabo sa kalibutan, sa aton nga kabuhi, daw kaangay sang isa ka bangungot, kung hindi manami nga damgo, nga kung pwede lang gusto ta iwasan, palagyuhan, bugtawan, para malain sa aton nga realidad. Thinking about it, I realized nga manugduwa na katuig ang COVID-19. And I never thought nga malabot sa amo sini ang aton nga sitwasyon. Thinking about it, I thought sa pagsugod gid sang sini nga virus, hasta lang sa Wuhan. Nabalang mga bagay nga makita mo na sa TV, sa balita, pero hindi mo yan mabatsyagan. Pero abi ko lang gali. Samtang nagalakat ang inadlaw, nagalapit, affecting our circle of friends, even our families. Ayhan ang iban nga gatanaw sa subong nga tinion, sila mismo naka-eksperyensya. Kag kung wala ikaw sang Ginoo, ang natabo o kung ang gakalatabo, pwede mangin traumatic experience para sa imo, nga mag-haunt sa imo adlaw-adlaw. Gusto ta mag-move on. Gusto naton maka-overcome, makalampuwas sa mga nagakalain-laing nga katabo sa kabuhi naton. We all go through pains and sorrows in life, and every time things like this happen, gina-consider ta ini nga daw disaster sa aton nga kabuhi because hindi kita preparado. We don't plan problems in our lives. Kung pwede na siguro i-schedule ang problema, hindi kita mabudlayan. But we all know that that is impossible. So today, let me share with you some principles on how you can recover from times such as this. Because we all need to move on at some point in our lives. If not from failures, base sa calamities, broken relationships, sickness, death, loss, or something else at a different time in your life. But brothers and sisters, I want you to remember that first of all, we don't live in a perfect world. In fact, we are in a broken world. But let us take comfort from what Jesus said. In this world, you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. So today, let me share with you 5 principles on how to move on from life's tragedies, heartbreaks, and adversities. First, we have to learn to let go and let God. The first thing you need to do is to let go of your heartache, of your sorrow, because sudden changes like disasters and tragedies will always create strong emotions, either fear, anger, worry, maybe depression, maybe a little resentment, grief over the loss of a loved one. And these feelings are scary. Hindi ka kabalo kung ang himuon mo, hindi ka kabalo kung paano mo suguran, especially kung tanan ka mo apektado. Unfortunately, kung hindi mo ni pag-atubangon, mas maging malawig ang proseso sa pag-recover. May mga tao nga in denial. When they have emotions they don't know how to handle, so they deny them, they ignore them, they push them away. Kung pareho ka sa amon nga klase sa mga tao, medyo mga hard, no? Tell yourself that it's okay to grieve. Notice what Jesus said in Matthew 5:4. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. You have to face your feelings. You don't repress them. You don't push them down. You don't rehearse them or torture yourself by repeating them over and over again in your mind. You have to let it go. You have to release it. Ipautwas. Dapat may outlet ka. No? Kaya ang pinakanami gid, kung ang Ginoo ang imong sulugiran, siya ang imong outlet. Because you can tell God exactly how you feel. Psalm 62 verse 8 says, "Pour out your hearts to God, for He is our refuge." And that is true. When we pour out, when we express our grief, when we tell the Lord how we feel, nagabag-an ang kabug-atan nga nabatyagan mo, nagaamat-amat tahaw, o kung nagakadula ang kakulba, ang kabalaka, because He is our refuge and our strength. God wants to comfort you in a tragedy. He wants to help you. He wants to make you feel better. But grief is a part of life. And so the first thing you have to do is to let go, to let God. Because if you don't, feelings will pile up and they will eventually explode in some form or another. When that happens, it's usually difficult to control or handle. So if you don't talk it out, you'll take it out on yourself or somebody else. So learn to let go and to let God. The second that we need to do after letting those feelings out is to learn how to accept help from others. Accept help from others. Galatians 6:2 says, "Carry each other's burdens, and in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ." Sa ibang nga versions ng Bible, naghambal ini, "Bear one another's burdens," or help carry each other's burdens. Meaning when you are feeling down and in grief, it is a big mistake to isolate yourself. No, subong na insindihan ta or mas nabalaan tagid ang kabudlayan nga mag-isolate. Kung i-lockdown, kung i-quarantine ka, kay balantang hindi ta makaagwanta. But in reality, this is what we commonly do. Kung may problema kita, may kabugatan kita ang ginaagyan, may pagtilaw kita, nagapalagyo kita, no? Nagapakuribong, kag mas gusto ta mag-isahanon. Kung sa iban, no? Kung ambal pa nila, mas gusto mo nga suluhon ang tanan-tanan. This is what we usually do because we feel nga wala sa may makaintindi sa aton. But friends, it's okay to step back for a while, but don't stay there. Because the truth is, you need other people. You need their perspective. You need their support. You need their encouragement. And you just need their presence. We need each other. Maski ano pa kabugat sang problema, nagamag-an kung may upod ikaw. May nagaalalay, nagabulig sa imo. You know what? Honestly, no? Isa sa mga problema sa mga Kristohanon is that naanad kita nga kung may nga kita nagabulig sa iban, no? Pero nabudlayan kita magbaton sang bulig sa iban, no? It's pride nga nagastop sa aton from accepting help and support from other people. But you know what? Just because you're a Christian doesn't mean that you are exempted from life's problems and failures. Ang pulong sa Diyos, wala nagahambal nga exempted kita, no? Tanan kita may pagtilaw and it's okay. Normal ang ina kay buhi kita. God says we need each other. In Hebrews 12:15, it says, "Look after each other so that no one of you will fail to find God's best blessings." For us to recover, we do not only need the promise of God, but we also need the people of God. Amo nang importante nga part ka sa isa ka family, sa isa ka church family, sa community, no? Hindi lang nga gasimba ka, gapongko pamati ka puli, but you have to establish relationships, friends, family whom you can trust, and people nga makabulig sa imo. You know, you don't need a lot. Just a few trusted friends, no, is more than enough. Sa aton nga Christian growth, gina-encourage tagid ang small group or cell group or sa iban life group. No? They are a group of people who can be accountable to each other, a group whom you can share your burdens with, support and pray with. People who will remind you, correct you, lift you up, build you up, and when they experience the same, ikaw naman ang ara nga magsuporta sa ilang. God says we need to receive from each other when we go through tough times. So be ready, be willing to accept help and support from other people. The third thing that we need to do to move on from life's adversities is to refuse to be bitter. Refuse to be bitter. Job 21:25 says, "Some people have no happiness at all. They live and die with bitter hearts." So, no? They live and die with bitter hearts. In times like this, you have to decide whether you allow this difficult circumstance in your life to make you a bitter person or a better person. According to Job, it's either you choose a happy life or a bitter life. Imon ay a choice because you can't have both. If you choose bitterness in your life, realize that you are not hurting anybody else with it, but yourself. And you are guaranteeing na hindi ka mangin malipayon because you can't be happy and bitter at the same time. So, paano tani maiwasan? No? How do you keep from being bitter when the inevitable or tragedies of life are going to come? Ano yung mo? You have two things to do. First, accept what cannot be changed. Accept the fact that there are things in life that are beyond our control. So we have to quit trying to fight it. Accept those things hindi mo yung mabago. No? Mga bagay sa palibot mo nga wala ka sa control. Faith is not pretending everything is great in your life. Magamba ka nga Kristohanon ka, may ka problema. No? Hambal ko man gani kagina, no? Hindi ina tuod, no? Mas kayong Kristohanon ka. Faith is facing the facts of life and not being discouraged by them. Amo ni ang tutuod nga pagtuo. We know that death is certain sa aton tanan-tanan, whether rich or poor, healthy ka man niya ako hindi, mapatay kita ya. No? Doktor ka man, abogado, maestro, manguma, pastor, one day we will all die. Whether COVID man ang rason o kung hindi, mapatay kita gihapon. No? Kag wala sa makapakakot kung saan o ina siya. But faith is facing the facts without getting discouraged. You see, there's very little in life that you can control. In fact, I've discovered that the most important things in life are those things that are out of your control. Things that you can't control. Kag-amo na ang isa sa mga rason nga nagalalain kita. No? So, accept what cannot be changed. Ang next na ito niya himuon is you focus on what is left. You focus on what is left and not what is lost. In 1 Thessalonians 5:18, the Living Bible says, "No matter what happens, always be thankful, for this is God's will for you." Ano ang will sang Ginoo para sa imo sa tiempo sang krisis? It's that I be thankful no matter what. For the problem? Of course not. God does not expect you to be thankful for a tragedy, for a crisis. But you should be thankful for what is left and not what's lost. Kung magdwell kita sa mga nadula sa aton, mabudlayan kita magbangon. No, hindi kita ka move on, hindi kita ka move forward. We will be stuck in that point of our lives. But there is another thing that you can do. You can choose to focus on God's goodness. Because gratitude and downheartedness cannot exist in the same heart. Well, you want to get over brokenheartedness or sadness? Start making a list of all the good things, of all the blessings in your life. You cannot be bitter and grateful at the same time. No? May nanamian ko nga quotation. Amo ni hambal niya. I complained I had no shoes until I met a man who had no legs. I complained I had no shoes until I met a man who had no legs. Brothers and sisters, you have to focus on what's left and not on what's lost. Ikaapat na makabulig sa aton move on is to dwell on what really matters. Disasters have a way of clarifying values. They have a way of pointing out what matters and what really doesn't matter in your life. In the first few months of ECQ, sang pagsugod gid sang a year ago, At first, nagalalaing kita, no? Kaya na-cut off kita sa aton nga usual nga routine, the mga normal things that we do every day. But then, it was in those times when we realized what really matters. Kaya ta manggaling nga hindi maglagaw. Okay manggaling nga hindi kita magtanaw sang sini. Mabuhi man kita galing nga wala naga-shopping sa mall for new clothes or new shoes. After all, okay ka na galing nga kompleto panimalay mo. To know that your family is safe. Nga mas importante, gali ang relationships. Kag sa amon nga tinion, nga mas nagalapit pagit kita sa Ginoo. They define your values. Jesus said in Luke 12:15, life is not measured by how much one owns. A man's life does not consist of what he possesses. In 1 Timothy 6:7, it says, we brought nothing into this world, and we can't take nothing out of it. Ang Iloilo, no, many times na nga naigo sa bagyo. And when Bagyo Frank and Yolanda hit our country, that is when people realized that life is more important than wealth or anything else. Halos tanan, no, nagpangaman sa ilatag sa tagsa nga kabuhi. If you have faith in the Lord, you still have so much to be thankful for. Here's the point. If you want real security, you must build your life on something that can never be taken from you. Can you lose a home? Yes. Can you lose a career? Yes. Damo kita kilala nga nadulaan sa mga trabaho nila. Can you lose your health? Yes. Can you lose your youthful beauty? Yes. But can you lose your relationship with God? No. If you want real security, then you build your life on something that can't be taken from you. Because God says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And once I place my life in His hands, basang puno sa Diyos, they are in my hand and no man can take them out. So remember what is really important. On our own strength alone, it is impossible. No? O mabalik-balik man kita gihapon. That's why we must, number 5, trust and depend on Jesus Christ. Trust and depend on Jesus Christ. Philippians 4:13 says, I have learned the secret of being happy at any time in everything that happens. I can do all things through Christ because He gives me strength. The thing about trust is that it's either you give all or nothing. Hindi pwedeng 50-50, not even 20-80, and not even 99%. It has to be 100%. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. And so when you trust God, you must be willing to depend on Him on a daily basis. Trust and depend on Him in every decision you have to make, not only the spiritual concerns. It includes your health, your finances, your relationships, your emotions, everything. God has to be involved in all things, and you must willingly surrender everything to Him. Not grudgingly. Let Him take control. Give your worries and fears so you won't have to carry it all day long. Itog yan, i-surrender. You cast your cares upon the Lord. And so how do you depend on Christ? Paano kita magsalig sa Ginoo? No? Quickly, let me just share with you through verses from the Bible. Lean on Christ for stability. Psalm 125:1 says, those who trust in the Lord are steady as Mount Zion, unmoved by any circumstance. In Psalm 112:6-7, such a person will not be overthrown by evil circumstances. God's constant care of him will make a deep impression on all who see it. He does not fear bad news, nor live in dread of what may happen. For he is settled in his mind that God will take care of him. Also lean on Christ for stability. Also listen to Christ for direction. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope in the future. Manang basa Jeremiah 29:11. And look to God or look to Christ for salvation. In Psalm 46 verse 2, it says, God is our protection and our strength. He always helps in times of trouble. So we will not be afraid even if the earth shakes or the mountains fall into the sea. And in 2 Corinthians 1 verse 10, we were really crushed and overwhelmed and feared we would never live through it. We saw how powerless we were to help ourselves, but that was good. For then we put everything into the hands of God, who alone could save us. And he did help us and saved us. And we expect him to do it again and again. At times like this, we have to trust and depend on Christ. Wala na sang iban pa nga makahatag sa imo sang kusog, sang kabakod nga makapadayon, kundi ang Ginoo lang gid. He alone understands your fears, your doubts, and worries, and he wants you to trust him. So friends, it's time to move on from life's adversities. And I'm not telling you that there won't be any more challenges, but I'm assuring you that you can move forward with God leading you every step of the way. Amen.